Part 1. Maybe you're not as sharp anymore. I didn't notice when it started. The small things. Forgetting where I left my reading glasses. Walking into the kitchen and standing there, unsure of why I came in. Double-checking the front door lock at night, not once, but 3 times. At 72, I told myself it was normal, but apparently my children didn't think so. It was a Sunday evening when Lucas and Vanessa came over. They didn't call first, which was unusual. Vanessa always called. She liked schedules, control, structure. Lucas stood near the fireplace, hands in his pockets, staring at the old family photos like he was studying evidence. Vanessa sat across from me on the couch, her posture straight, lips tight. "Dad," she began gently, "we've been worried about you." I gave a small laugh. "Worried? I still mow my own lawn." "That's not what we mean," Lucas said quietly. Vanessa leaned forward. "You're forgetting things, getting confused." My chest tightened. "I am not confused." Lucas exchanged a look with her. "Last week," Vanessa continued carefully, "you told me someone called you about a deposit box, some jeweler." I nodded. "Walter Green, Green & Sons Jewelers, downtown." Lucas frowned. "Dad, that place closed 8 years ago." I blinked. "That's not possible. He called me Tuesday." Vanessa's eyes softened, but there was something else in them, pity. "Dad, I think you might be mixing things up." My heart thudded harder. "No, he said Margaret arranged something before she passed." The room shifted when I said her name. Margaret, my wife of 43 years, gone 11 months. Lucas cleared his throat. "Mom wouldn't hide something like that." "You don't know that." Vanessa stood and walked closer, resting her hand on my shoulder. The gesture felt rehearsed. "Dad, sometimes when people go through grief, the mind tries to protect itself. It creates things." "Creates things? As if Margaret was something my brain invented?" "She left instructions," I insisted. "He said I was to bring the key she kept in the blue jewelry box." Vanessa's expression changed slightly, too quickly. "What key?" she asked. "The brass one, with the tiny heart carved into the top." Lucas stiffened. Vanessa smiled faintly. "Dad, there is no key like that." I stared at her. "There is." "You showed me that jewelry box after Mom passed," she said softly. "There was no key." I felt something cold slide down my spine. I had shown her. I remembered that. Hadn't I? My thoughts scrambled. Maybe it was underneath the lining. Lucas stepped forward. "Dad, listen to yourself. You're not sure." My hands began to tremble. Vanessa's voice grew firmer. "Dad, sometimes elderly people get scammed every day. Someone could have called pretending to be a jeweler." "It wasn't a scam." "How do you know?" she pressed. "Did you verify the number?" I pulled out my phone and scrolled through recent calls. There, Walter Green. I held it up. Vanessa barely glanced at it. "That could be anyone. Numbers can be faked." Lucas nodded. My throat tightened. "Dad," Vanessa said, her voice now edged with steel, "I think people don't realize when they're slipping." "Slipping? Like I was sliding off some invisible cliff? Are you saying I'm losing my mind?" No one answered. That silence was louder than any accusation. Finally, Lucas spoke quietly. "We just think it might be time to consider assisted living." The word exploded in my chest. Assisted living? Translation, remove the problem. "I'm not going anywhere," I said. Vanessa stepped back, folding her arms. "Then prove it." "Prove what?" "That this jeweler exists, that Mom arranged something. Show us paperwork, a receipt, something real." I stood up too quickly. I don't need to prove anything in my own house. Vanessa's jaw tightened. We're trying to help you. I don't need help. Lucas moved toward the door. Vanessa paused before following him. We're going to make an appointment with Dr. Harmon, whether you want to go or not. The door shut behind them. The silence afterwards felt heavier than before. I sat back down slowly. Margaret's armchair faced the window. I walked to it and lowered myself into it. My heart was still pounding. What if? No. I closed my eyes. The call phone was real. I remembered his voice, steady, professional. Mr. Whitaker, my name is Walter Green. Your wife left instructions for us to contact you 1 year after her passing. 1 year. Tomorrow marks exactly 11 months and 2 weeks. He said to bring the key, the brass key with the tiny heart carved into the top. I stood suddenly and went to the bedroom. The blue jewelry box sat on Margaret's dresser. I opened it carefully. Necklaces, earrings, her wedding ring. I lifted the velvet lining. My breath caught. Empty. No key. My hands began to shake. I was certain. I remembered holding it. Didn't I? I leaned against the dresser. What if Vanessa was right? What if grief was twisting my memory? I looked into the mirror. The man staring back at me looked older than 72. Tired, uncertain. I whispered softly, "Margaret, did you?" And then I saw it. A tiny corner of folded paper tucked behind the mirror frame. My heart pounded as I pulled it free. It was Margaret's handwriting. I would know it anywhere. Daniel, if they start questioning you, look beneath what they see. Trust yourself. M. My hands went cold. If they start questioning you. She knew. She knew this would happen. Suddenly my doubt shifted. This wasn't about confusion. This was about something else. And I wasn't losing my mind. Someone wanted me to think I was. The things they didn't want me to remember. I didn't sleep that night. Margaret's note lay on the bedside table, illuminated by the faint glow of the hallway light. If they start questioning you, look beneath what they see. Trust yourself. If they start questioning you. She had predicted this. But how? Margaret had always been observant, quietly so. She noticed things others missed. Conversations behind half-closed doors, the way Vanessa's smile never quite reached her eyes, the way Lucas avoided eye contact whenever money was mentioned. Money. A thought flickered in my mind. I sat up in bed. 3 months before Margaret passed, she insisted we update the will. I didn't argue. I never argued with her about practical things. But something about that meeting with the lawyer felt tense. Vanessa had offered to handle the paperwork. Lucas had driven us to the appointment. At the time, I appreciated their involvement. Now, I wasn't so sure. The next morning, I drove downtown, not to Dr. Harmon, not to the jeweler, to the bank. Our family had used Westfield Community Bank for over 30 years. The manager, Harold Benton, had known Margaret well. When I walked in, Harold's eyebrows lifted in surprise. "Daniel, haven't seen you in a while." "I need to review my accounts," I said evenly. He led me to his office. As he pulled up the files, his expression shifted. "Is something wrong?" "I just want to confirm something." He hesitated before turning the monitor slightly toward me. My checking account balance looked lower, much lower. "Why is there a monthly withdrawal of $5,000? I asked. Harold frowned. "It's an automatic transfer." "To where?" He clicked a few more buttons. "To Whitaker Family Holdings, LLC. I stared at the screen. "I've never heard of that." Harold looked confused.
It was set up last fall, authorized with your signature. My stomach dropped. That's impossible. He rotated the screen fully toward me. There it was. My name, Daniel Whitaker. Signed. But something about it felt wrong. The loops in the D, the slant. Close, but not quite mine. When was this established? I asked quietly. October 14th. October 14th. Margaret had been in hospice that week. I felt lightheaded. Who set this up? Harold hesitated. Your daughter, Vanessa, was present. The room seemed to tilt. She had power of attorney paperwork. Power of attorney? I never signed power of attorney. I want copies of everything, I said. Harold studied my face carefully. Daniel, is everything okay? I'm not sure. The missing key. When I returned home, I went straight to the study. Margaret kept personal documents in the old oak desk, second drawer, locked. I froze. Locked? It had never been locked before. I tried the handle again. Definitely locked. And then it hit me. The brass key, the one with the heart carved into it. It wasn't for a deposit box. It was for this drawer. My pulse quickened. Someone had removed it from the jewelry box. Someone who didn't want me opening this drawer. Vanessa. The realization felt like a punch to the chest. I grabbed a small screwdriver from the garage and carefully pried at the lock. It took 20 minutes. When it finally popped open, I almost didn't breathe. Inside were 3 items. A sealed envelope labeled "For Daniel Only," a small black flash drive, and a notarized document. My hands shook as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in Margaret's handwriting. Daniel, if you're reading this, then it means they've begun. I tried to protect you from this. Vanessa has been pressuring me for over a year to transfer assets early. She says it's for tax efficiency, but I've seen the urgency in her, the desperation. Lucas isn't leading this, he's following. I discovered she drafted a version of our will without telling you. It significantly reduces your control of the estate. I confronted her. She apologized, but I don't trust apologies that come too quickly. If they try to convince you you're confused, unstable, or incapable, remember this: you are not. The flash drive contains proof, and the key, the real key, is not where she thinks it is. Trust yourself. I love you, Margaret. My vision blurred. Vanessa, my daughter, trying to take control? Trying to make me appear unstable? The $5,000 transfers, the forged signature, the power of attorney, and then the gaslighting. You're forgetting things. You're confused. Maybe you shouldn't live alone. If they could convince a doctor I was mentally declining, they could legally assume control. Assisted living, sell the house, access everything. My breathing became uneven. I picked up the flash drive and walked to my laptop. It contained scanned documents, emails, draft wills, and an audio recording. I clicked play. Vanessa's voice filled the room. He won't fight it. Dad hates confrontation. Once the doctor signs off on cognitive decline, we can finalize guardianship. It's cleaner that way. Another voice. Lucas, are you sure we're doing the right thing? We're protecting the estate and ourselves. Do you know how much medical care costs? If he remarries or gets scammed, everything's gone. My hand trembled on the mouse. Vanessa again. And if he resists? Pause. Then we show the court he's unstable. The recording ended. The silence afterwards felt suffocating. This wasn't concern. This was strategy, carefully planned. Margaret knew this. She had prepared for this. But she mentioned a real key, not where Vanessa thinks it is. So where? I stood slowly. Margaret's favorite place had been the garden, specifically the old oak tree in the backyard. Once she joked, "If I ever hide something important, it'll be somewhere poetic." I grabbed a flashlight and walked outside. The evening air was cold. The oak tree stood tall, branches stretching like protective arms. At its base was the small stone bench we used to sit on every summer. I knelt beside it. There was a loose stone near the left leg. I had noticed it before, never questioned it. My pulse quickened as I lifted it. Underneath, a small metal tin. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside lay the brass key, the heart carved into the top, exactly as I remembered. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. I wasn't losing my mind. They were trying to make me doubt it. I stood slowly, gripping the key tightly. Tomorrow was exactly 1 year since Margaret passed. Walter Green had said to come 1 year later. Walter Green and Sons had believed Green and Sons had closed 8 years ago. But what if that was another lie? Or what if someone else now operated quietly? There was only one way to know. As I walked back into the house, my phone buzzed. Vanessa. I stared at the screen. Let it ring. It stopped. A second later, a text message appeared. "We scheduled Dr. Harmon for Thursday at 10 a.m. Please don't make this any harder than it has to be." Harder. I typed slowly back. "Don't worry, I won't." Because tomorrow, I was going to find out exactly what Margaret left behind. And if my children thought I was weak, they were about to remember who raised them.
The next morning felt different. Not lighter, sharper, like the air before a storm. I dressed carefully, pressed shirt, wool coat, the watch Margaret gave me on our 30th anniversary. The brass key rested in my pocket, heavy against my thigh. If I was going to face the truth, I would do it standing upright. Green and Sons Jewelers had indeed closed 8 years ago. At least that's what the sign on the old storefront said. Windows dark, door locked, dust lining the edges of the glass. For a moment, doubt tried to creep back in. Had I misunderstood everything? Then I noticed something small taped to the inside of the door. By appointment only, rear entrance. My heart thudded. I walked down the alley. A plain black door stood halfway open. Inside, the lighting was warm, quiet, private. And behind a polished oak desk stood a man in his late 60s. "Mr. Whitaker," he said calmly. "Walter Green. Real. Solid. Not hallucination. Not confusion. I was beginning to wonder if you'd come." "I almost didn't," I admitted. He studied my face carefully. "They've started, haven't they?" The words hit hard. "Yes." He nodded slowly, as if he had expected nothing less. Margaret prepared for this. He gestured toward a small private room. Inside sat a safe, waist-high, steel, old-fashioned. "Your wife came here 3 months before she passed," he explained quietly. "She deposited something with very strict instructions." My hands trembled slightly as I removed the brass key from my pocket. Walter inserted it into the safe's lock. It turned smoothly. The door opened. Inside sat a single wooden box. Simple, elegant. Margaret. Walter lifted it carefully and handed it to me. "She said you would doubt yourself," he added softly, "and that when you did, this would remind you who you are." I swallowed hard. I opened the box. Inside was not money, not jewelry, not documents. It was a leather-bound journal, and beneath it, another envelope. Walter stepped back to give me privacy. I opened the envelope first. Inside was a notarized amendment to the will. It revoked any previously signed power of attorney. It nullified all asset transfers made after October 10th, unless verified by 2 independent witnesses. October 10th, 4 days before the forged signature at the bank. Margaret had anticipated it, but that wasn't the shocking part. The amendment created a trust, a protected trust, and it named a single executor. Not Vanessa, not Lucas, me, for life. After my passing, 40% would go to charity, Alzheimer's research. The remaining 60% would be divided equally between the children, but only if no attempt was made to declare me mentally incompetent without medical necessity. If such an attempt occurred, their inheritance would be reduced to $1 each. My chest tightened. Margaret hadn't just protected me, she had tested them. I opened the journal. Page after page of her handwriting, observations, dates, concerns, notes about conversations she overheard. Vanessa asked again about transferring the lake house early. Lucas seems uncomfortable. I think he knows this isn't right. Daniel trusts too easily. I must make sure he is safe. Tears blurred my vision. The last entry was written only days before she passed. If you are reading this, my love, then you survived the hardest year. I am sorry they made you doubt yourself. You are not weak. You are not confused. You are the strongest man I know. And if our children choose money over integrity, that is their burden to carry, not yours. I closed the journal slowly. Walter cleared his throat gently. There is one more thing. He handed me a small velvet pouch. Inside was a necklace, a gold heart pendant. Familiar, but different. I pressed gently on the side. Click. It opened. Inside was a tiny photograph of Margaret and me on our wedding day, and engraved in microscopic letters, "Trust yourself." I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. The confrontation. Vanessa and Lucas were waiting at my house when I returned. Vanessa stood the moment I walked in. "Where were you?" I removed my coat calmly. "I had an appointment." "With who?" "With the truth." Lucas looked uneasy. Vanessa crossed her arms. "Dad, we're trying to help you." "No," I said evenly. "You're trying to control me." Her expression hardened. "That's ridiculous." I placed the journal on the table, the notarized document beside it. Then I pressed play on my phone. The recording filled the room. "Once the doctor signs off on cognitive decline, we can finalize guardianship." Vanessa's face drained of color. Lucas stepped back as if physically struck. "That's not—" I interrupted quietly. "It is." "You recorded me?" she demanded. "Your mother did." The silence that followed was suffocating. Lucas looked at her. "You said this was just paperwork." Vanessa's composure cracked. "You don't understand. Do you know what long-term care costs? Do you know what happens when elderly people get scammed? I was protecting what Mom built." "You were protecting yourself," I replied softly. Her breathing quickened. "I was making sure everything didn't fall apart." "It didn't fall apart," I said. "You tried to push it." Lucas looked shattered. "Vanessa, you forged his signature?" She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I took a slow breath. "Your mother changed the will." Vanessa's eyes widened. "If you attempt to declare me incompetent without cause, you receive $1. The words landed like a bomb. She stared at me in disbelief. "You wouldn't." "I didn't," I said quietly. "She did." Lucas sat down heavily. Vanessa's anger slowly dissolved into something else. Fear, then regret, then something close to shame.
"I was scared," she whispered. "After Mom died, everything felt unstable. You were forgetting things. You left the stove on twice." I nodded slowly. "Yes, I did." My voice softened. But fear doesn't justify betrayal. Tears welled in her eyes. For the first time since Margaret passed, I saw not control in her face, but a frightened little girl. Lucas spoke quietly. "We thought we were doing the right thing." I sat down. "Then you should have talked to me, not about me." The room felt heavy with years of unspoken tension. Finally, Vanessa stepped forward. "I'm sorry. It wasn't defensive, it wasn't calculated, it was small, broken, real." I studied her carefully. "You will reverse the transfers," I said calmly. "You will remove the LLC, and you will come with me to the bank." She nodded immediately. Lucas wiped his face quietly. "And the doctor appointment?" Vanessa asked hesitantly. I gave a faint smile. "I'll go, voluntarily." Her head snapped up. "You will?" "Yes." Because here was the shocking truth. I had been forgetting things. Not everything, but enough. And protecting my independence didn't mean denying reality. It meant facing it honestly. Margaret didn't prepare me to fight my children. She prepared me to stand steady. That night, after they left, I sat again in Margaret's chair. The necklace rested in my palm. Click. The tiny photo inside caught the light. I wasn't losing my mind, but I was aging. And maybe the real strength wasn't proving them wrong. Maybe it was choosing forgiveness when I had every reason not to. A week later, the bank transfers were reversed, the forged documents voided. The doctor confirmed mild age-related memory decline, nothing severe. No guardianship, no assisted living, just monitoring. Vanessa began coming over every Thursday, not to manage, to visit. Lucas fixed the loose stair railing without being asked. Small things, real things. Margaret's trust remained intact. Her test had worked, because in the end, she hadn't just protected the money, she protected the truth, and she protected me from doubting who I was. I closed my eyes that night without fear, not because everything was perfect, but because I knew something certain. I wasn't confused, I wasn't broken, and I wasn't alone.